Hi, and welcome to the Loud Reset podcast. My name is Adrian, and I am your host. And I want to welcome you all back to this next episode. This is episode 10, so I'm super excited about that. I have my dear friend, a new friend to me in life, Mary Meixner. We met, was it this year or was it just last year?
I think it was last year.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe late last year.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. We met last year in the birding community, which that has opened my eyes and my friendships and connections to so many people. And Mary is amazing. So I cannot wait to hear about some of her things. She's done some amazing travels, and it's just super exciting to get to pick her brain and get to know her. She's extremely fascinating. The very first day I met her, when I had heard some of the things that she has done in life, I was just enraptured with what she has done and accomplished. So I'm super excited to share her story and get to know her a little bit. So really looking forward to that. So thank you so much for coming on here. I'll preface with saying we're getting to know each other. So a lot of this stuff is going to be new to me for the first time, which I'm very excited about. Right. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to, like I always like to do, I like to get to know you a little bit from the early years. So tell me kind of born and raised, where you grew up. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I grew up right here in, well, not here in Mansfield, in Ashland.
Okay.
I grew up in Ashland. I was one of 6 kids, big family growing up. My parents actually homeschooled us, so that was something a little bit different then. Homeschooling's gotten a lot more popular now, but back then it wasn't quite as popular.
Sure.
But yeah, so it was, we lived in town, and then we moved out to the country, and we had like 6.5 acres when I was growing up, and that was sort of, I think, really influential in my career path and all that moving forward. And we're just a really close, tight-knit family.
Yeah.
And
now, where are you in the birthing order?
Yeah, so I'm number 2.
Okay.
So yeah, one of the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5.
Okay.
So
okay.
Totally get the big sibling dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it
very cool?
How many brothers? How many sisters?
Yeah. So I have 2 brothers and then 3 sisters. So I have an older sister, and then everybody else is younger than me. So.
Okay. So rural Ashland.
Yep. Rural Ashland. Homeschooled, just nerdy, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all that stuff. Grew up into crazy about that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you a good student? Did you enjoy school?
I did, I think, for the most part. Yeah. I mean, I was a pretty good student. I don't know that I really had a favorite subject in high school and, earlier than that. But going to school, I obviously loved science and biology and that kind of stuff. But, I think, we were pretty independent as far as like getting things done, especially because my mom had, younger little kids that she was also homeschooling. And she and my dad split the teaching duties and stuff.
Okay.
So they shared those responsibilities. But I was pretty independent once we got to a certain age and was kind of in the high school side of things.
Yeah, and I think that obviously plays into what you've been able to do.
Yeah,
someone who's very independent can't do the things you've done. So yeah, you definitely. It seems like it's been instilled in you from an early age.
Yeah, and I would say I'm very independent now. I have a social circle, but I'm very much fine being like alone and doing stuff alone. So
yes, absolutely. So what did it look like growing up socially, being homeschooled?
Yeah. So we were part of a couple different like homeschool groups, other homeschooling families in the area. That we would get together and go on field trips and just get together for like potlucks and fun things. So I had some friends, in those groups that were about the same age that we would do stuff with, birthday parties and other fun outings together. So, other than that, those were probably my closest friends growing up, is just the people in the homeschool group. We had friends, we did Sunday school and sports and 4-H and that kind of stuff too. So we had friends through those things too, but as far as like seeing them regularly and really like talking with them, hanging out, those were
when you're growing up, your siblings are your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
When you have so many of them, I totally can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that totally like helped me growing up to like, know different types of people and like interact with people. So it definitely helped my interpersonal skills, I would say, having siblings that have very different personalities and things like that.
What are your parents like? What they do for a living?
Yeah, so my dad is an engineer. He's the county engineer of Ashland.
Very cool.
Bridges and roads and things like that. And then my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she did a lot of the homeschooling, but also just wrangling 6 kids
Yes.
and groceries and all
Busy
of that. So
schedules and, yeah.
she was a teacher before she became a mom. She did do some teaching, and she has a master's in teaching. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
so they complement each other very well.
That's
and
good.
My dad, as far as teaching, would teach like the math and the history and the kind of that side of things. Then she would do the other side of things.
Yep.
So it worked out well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nerdy kid, like the Star Wars, all of that. Yep, I love
Yeah.
it. Same.
Yep.
I mean, and to give context, what year were you born?
1991.
Okay, so 90s baby. That you
Yep.
said that put you 33.
Yes, 33
years
yep.
old. Yes, yeah. So.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, when we lived in town, I just remember like, walking down the street to the neighbor kids
No
and,
care in the world.
riding our bikes just down the sidewalk as far as we could and back. And it's a very different world.
And no phones.
Right,
And
no phones.
communication.
Yeah, exactly.
90s, I love the 90s. The early 90s is just, it's clutch. It's absolutely clutch.
The world kind of completely changed after that, I feel like.
It did.
Yeah.
Once like the age of the internet just, and I think cell phones primarily have,
Yeah.
I mean there's so many great things with it, but technology is wild, and now we're into AI and all of that, and it's just where do we stop?
Yeah.
So right out of school, you graduated high school. Did you start working? Did you start going into college? What did you do right away?
Yeah, so I went to college. So I actually started at Franciscan University of Steubenville and just their general like biology degree program. And then I sort of decided after the first year that I wanted something a little more specific to like animal care and really kind of getting into like zoology side of things. And their program was very much for like pre-med students and, pre-vet students and that type of thing. So I transferred to Malone University in Canton, Ohio. I was a commuter, so I did like a 1 hour there, 1 hour back most days of the week. Sometimes I could wrangle like only going to school 4 days a week, but some semesters I was going 5 days a week. So
and thankfully that's not an awful drive.
No, it's
especially
not
from Ashland. Like
right.
I don't mind that. It's not 71 the crazy. It's
right.
straight out Route 30.
It was a nice drive, and I had a good truck, so I had drove a truck for a while, and that was kind of nice to get me through the snowy winters. I swear that I think the first year that I was commuting, though, we had like one of the worst winters we had in a long time. So
probably. And
I learned how to
newer
drive in the snow.
And you probably saved a boatload by not staying on campus.
Yes, for sure. And it was nice too for me because I could be home, when my younger siblings were growing up, and I have a pretty good relationship with them now because of that. Just being able to go to their soccer games and that type of stuff. So so that was nice. But yeah, the program was zoo and wildlife biology, so it was sort of designed for people who maybe wanted to go into the zookeeping field, or some of my friends were like wanted to be zoo vets and that type of thing. So it was very hands-on, like you're out in the field learning birds, or you're out learning reptiles, or we had even like a small serpentarium on campus with like snakes and lizards and things, and so we got to like help with that. So we got to help with that, that type of animal care stuff too. So it was a super good program.
What you wanted to do?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think I was pretty set in, like, I knew I wanted to work with animals. I knew I didn't want to be a vet because I didn't want to be the person that like the animals don't like. I wanted to be the one that was like giving them treats and like here's some good things. I'm not going to poke you with stuff. So no, I never. It's funny. My grandpa, who I only knew from I didn't really remember him because I was only like 2 or 3 when he passed away. But he was a veterinarian, a large animal vet, and so people always asked me like, "Oh, you're gonna be a vet?" And I was like, "Well, no, not exactly. I just want to work with animals." But yeah, actually, I think when I was growing up, we like I said, we moved when I was young. When I was 10, we moved to the country and had like 6.5 acres. And I remember somebody giving us a bird book and a bag of birdseed as like a housewarming gift. And I think that was like the moment I started like paying attention to nature and birds and things. And I think that really like then directed me to like what I wanted to really do. And I remember taking my siblings, like herping, so going out and looking for reptiles and amphibians and just hiking and spending time in nature. Herping,
because it's birding, so
so they call it herping.
I'm gonna learn a lot today.
We would do that for my because I had a herpetology class in school too, so we would go out in the field just looking for reptiles and amphibians. And
I chose the wrong career. What is wrong with me? Why do I call customers all day when I could be playing in the lakes?
It's rough though, because you don't always make a lot of money. So I worked for the bird sanctuary in Mansfield for 9 years, and it was an incredible job. I loved it. It was perfect for me at the time, and but yeah, you don't make a lot of money.
So when you were younger, you knew. Did your siblings share the same interest at you at all, or
a little bit, but I think I was definitely like the most like nature
outdoorsy,
nerdy person. Yeah, for sure. Like I would take them hiking and herping and birding and that kind of stuff. But they enjoy that kind of stuff now. Like, I mean, both of my brothers actually fishing, and the one's getting into birding a little bit, and I'm trying to get the other one into birding too. We all definitely like appreciate nature and enjoy spending time outside.
Well, I think growing up rural like that with a lot of acreage, what else are you gonna do?
Right, you just go outside and especially I think being homeschooled, we weren't on such a structured day, and we didn't
more flexibility.
We played sports, but not like super intense, like 3 sports in a school semester or whatever. And so I think we just had more time and just to be outside running around. So
I love that
was really influential.
So you're at Malone, you're going to school, you're learning all the things. How long did it take you to get your degree, and what do you have, and what does that look like?
Sure, yeah. So I have a bachelor's in zoo and wildlife biology, and so it was a 4-year thing. I spent the first year at that first school, and then 3 years at Malone, and I graduated. And then I was just working jobs, working at the bird sanctuary. I worked at the Cleveland Zoo for a little bit doing education stuff. They call it an interpreter, but you're not like language interpreter, more like animals and behaviors and things. So I did that at the Cleveland Zoo for a little while, kind of across their busy seasons. I did a couple of seasons with them. Worked at like Mohegan Outdoor School for a little while. So I sort of went through a period where I was working like 3 different jobs at a time type thing, just trying to pay off school loans or whatever.
Of all the little jobs here and there, which one was probably your favorite?
Definitely the bird sanctuary. I mean, I still look back at that and I'm like, man, sometimes I still just wish I was there. And it was a really, really good job. And I kind of, grew up and matured there, I would say. Because I was there right out of college, actually. My senior year at Malone, I started interning there. And then I was part-time staff for a while, and then I was full-time staff for about 5 or 6 years, managing the bird care side of things and doing rehab, and doing some education on the side of it, too. So all of my jobs, I would say, have had a little bit of that education piece thrown in there for sure.
And if you're from Ohio, the bird sanctuary is amazing.
Yes,
please go to it. It's so incredible. I love that place.
It has grown so much too since I started there.
I bet
it was crazy. Yeah, so I worked there from 2012 until 2021, and that was sort of. It was a hard time because I wanted to stay there, but I knew I wasn't supposed to, and so it was kind of it was a struggle there for a little while.
I'm sure it was so hard to leave. Especially when you've been there almost a decade.
Yes.
So that's a big part of your life. Right. The people, the animals, the attachment you must have to those animals.
Elliot's a black vulture, and
oh my God,
he was my baby when I was there, so he's my favorite.
I do love those birds. I think they're very misunderstood.
Yes.
They're fascinating.
I credit him with my love for misunderstood animals. Because I love vultures, I love coyotes. That's my favorite. Those are my favorite animals. So definitely a very formative experience growing up there, and just the culture there was always very positive and lovely, just lovely people. And
any I'm sure there's probably a lot of sad stories dealing with animals.
Sure.
That either can't be rehabbed or have to be put down and things like that. How did you deal with that part of the life and work?
Yeah, I think it always, it's always hard, but I think it comes from a place of realizing that, this is maybe what's best for this animal, and it's a quality of life thing. And maybe this bird could live in captivity, but is it really going to have a good quality of life? And so you have to sort of look at it, I think, from that perspective. And always just do what's best for the animal, despite what you might feel.
So, no matter how hard it is, like you said, it's what's best. And I think everyone there and that facility has such a great reputation of this is actual care. It's not just, dumping grounds or anything like that. They try to rehab and release, right? Is that, that's their main focus.
Yeah. And they're definitely one of the best ones in the state as far as like rehab
good.
facilities and education, and just the standard there is like super high, which is great.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you left there, where did you go next?
yeah, so it sort of ties into the whole Appalachian Trail experience. So I started in 2016. Is when I sort of decided that I was going to hike the Appalachian Trail. And I was going to through hike it. And so that's where you start at one point and you hike the whole thing without stopping,
Oh my God. Well, first, how do you as a young woman get to there in your head?
Sure.
You wake up one day and you're like, I think I'm going to do this.
It's funny. It actually, I think, started with a library book, funnily enough. So I was like, in the library one day, just browsing and found like the outdoor adventure sports section and found a book there about the Appalachian Trail, and I think it was just called Walking the Appalachian Trail. And so I read that, and it's just sort of sparked the idea in my head that like,
now, how old were you
this
when
could
you
be
read
cool. So I would have been about 24 or 25, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do math right off the top of my head,
same.
but something like that. So I read that book, and then I started reading other books, and any book I could get my hands on about the trail, and
it ignited
all the websites, and I'm a very spiritual person, and so it was very much a God thing too for me, and just something that I felt like I was supposed to do. I was being called to do this journey, and so so that was 2016 in like February, and so I just basically spent the rest of the year up until April of the following year. 2017 is actually when I started hiking the trail.
Okay.
And that was sort of the beginning of the end of my time at the bird sanctuary, I think.
Okay.
So I sort of, as each year would go on, because I didn't end up being able to through hike, I was dealing with some injuries and things like that. And so I ended up then having to hike the trail like in sections across the next couple of years. And I can pretty much just pinpoint like 2017 was when it just started to like, I don't know, something new was like stirring up inside me, and I was not supposed to be at the bird sanctuary anymore. And so, that was a tough decision, like we kind of talked about, but it was just what was supposed to happen. And, so I finished there, did my last section of the trail in 2021 and officially finished it. And then I, just worked an in-between job, worked at the library actually, where I first found that library book, funnily enough. Worked there for a couple years, and then the job at the park district opened up, so I work there as a naturalist right now. So
Ashland County Parks.
Yes, Ashland County Parks. Yep. So I'm then first official full-time like naturalist and outreach person that they've ever had. So it's been a whirlwind.
I mean, you probably get to create your program.
Yes, I do. It is exciting, but it's also very overwhelming sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So
where to even start?
Yes, exactly. And not having any of the resources, and like having to create things and find things, and
there's only so many hours in the day.
Yes, I could easily work like 80 hours a week.
Easily.
Yeah.
And even when you're off work, your brain is probably still I mean, I feel like that's in every job, but like when you're creating a program that never existed, you really can carte blanche and do what you want, which is great. Yeah,
it's cool. I'm in a much better place now than I was last year about this time. I think last year about this time it was like
losing
just
your
super
mind.
And
what am I
I
doing?
was not sleeping well, you know, my mental health was not great, and so I'm in a better place right now.
So how did you get that mental health back in line?
Yeah, I think it just comes with experience, gaining more confidence in your job and seeing things work and, building confidence that way.
Being new at anything sucks.
and also just, I think I've grown a lot through the different journeys that I've been on, whether it was the AT and then like my master's program that I'm in now, and I've just seen myself grow a lot and develop a lot more confidence in myself and in my own voice and using that voice, and so I'm much more, I think I'm a much stronger person than I was last year.
Absolutely. So I really want to dive into the trail.
Yeah. I can talk about it a lot.
I've never, because what I see of the trail is all the spookies, and all the scary, and I'm like, first off, are you with a group? How do you prepare? Are you alone? Like, what do the logistics look like of something like that?
Sure, yeah. So you kind of, I guess, think about it like a series of like 3 to 5 day hikes, because really you're sort of going from trail town to, resupply to resupply, we call it.
Okay.
So, you're out on the trail for a couple days. You have food for like 3 to 5 days,
Okay.
maybe
All on your back.
7 days.
Everything's on your back.
Everything on your back in a backpack, tent, sleeping bag. You're wearing one set of clothes. You're carrying your clothes that you sleep in.
Okay.
You have to have a water filter, to clean the water that you're drinking out of streams and springs and things like that. And then you're carrying about usually 3 to 5 days, maybe 7 days if you have to, but food is heavy.
Yeah.
So you try to carry as little as you can.
So what did food look like? What was it, like astronaut food? Were you doing
kind
that,
of. I mean, some of the freeze-dried stuff that you just, rehydrate with water. I carried a stove the first section hike I did, so the big long one, which was about 1,000 miles, that was the biggest chunk that I did because I was trying to through hike, intending on just keeping going. But tuna, peanut butter, trail mix, protein bars, dried fruit maybe. So just that stuff that's easy to carry, and some of those are like rehydrated meals, which were nice, but I only had a very small variety. I was so sick of them.
Oh God!
By the time I ended,
you probably just smashed a burger or something.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is like you're hiking, maybe 16, 18, 20 miles a day, and you just can't replace those calories with the food that you have on your back. So when you get into town, it's like you can really pack away a lot.
Yeah. How much weight did you lose on a trek like this?
Funny, I didn't really lose weight, and that's kind of a thing I think that they notice in women, especially that are doing long distance hiking. Men tend to lose a ton of weight, even a dangerous amount of weight. And then I don't think I lost any weight. I think I gained
probably
muscle.
Converted to muscle.
Yeah, I gained muscle, but I didn't actually lose any weight. So but yeah, it's as far as preparing for it, it was a lot of just reading books, reading websites, reading trail blogs that people had put together of when they had hiked the trail, talking to other people that had done it, and just really kind of gaining that experience. But it's also just something that you don't really learn until you're actually out there doing.
I feel like you could read for decades. But then when you're out there, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it really is. And I did a trip the summer before with my dad and I went out for 5 days on the trail, and that was an experience in itself. You just learn that you just can't stay clean in the woods for one thing. You're just gonna get dirty, and it just doesn't matter. But
forget personal hygiene when you're hiking,
right?
Yeah, especially on something like that.
Yeah. It's rough. I mean, you get into town to get food, but then you also, get a shower and do your laundry. But other than that, you're out for 5 to 7 days maybe without a shower and without laundry. And you're just trying to stay as clean as you can in those circumstances. But you're also just getting up the next day and getting dirty again.
Yeah. So what's the point? Yeah. So have you always been with someone when you were on it?
No, so I actually did most of it solo.
Oh my God. That is so incredible to me. I can barely go on a walk by myself. Not that I'm incapable, but that always
right.
You want to look behind you type thing.
Right. And I know that was a struggle definitely at first. I think once I had been out there for a long enough time, for example, I remember my third night out on the trail, the first time out, I thought I was going to have to spend the night alone at this campsite just in the middle of the woods, and I was freaking out. I was panicking, I can't do this. I think granted I was maybe 5 miles from a road this way and 5 miles from a road, so I wasn't really in the middle of nowhere,
5 miles is still long.
It feels like a long time.
That's still
I remember the other hikers walking into camp, and I was like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yes.
But then by the time I actually had to spend the night by myself, which was in Vermont, so to give reference, I started actually in West Virginia, and I did the northern half first, and then I was going to do the southern half from West Virginia to Georgia. So by the time I got to Vermont, I'd probably been on trail for 2 or 3 months, 2 months probably. 2 months, about 2 months. So, and I had to spend the night alone at, a shelter in the middle of the woods, and it was okay. I was okay. I didn't freak myself out. I was fine. But yeah, I think you have to realize that bad stuff happens anywhere.
Correct.
And
you still have to, if you want to do it, live your life.
Yeah, for sure. You can't let the fear get in the way, I guess. But it's definitely the whole community around the trail. So like people hiking the trail, people in the towns that are close to the trail. I stayed in hostels a lot of the time along the trail. They put up hikers. And that whole community is just really incredible. Everybody's kind. Everybody looks out for each other. You know, everybody, you kind of just pass information along, or there's like books, a notebook at each of the shelters that you get to like leave notes in. So if there were only really 2 times where I heard about like somebody on the trail that was causing trouble, and I knew I needed to not run into them. And you sort of learn that by, you know, reading those trail logs, seeing comments online, in like the guide apps and stuff that you use. And, so yeah, it was those were like only twice out of, you know, thousands of miles. They actually really felt like I had to worry about 2 people. I think it's pretty good. You know, 98% of the time it's perfectly good. So
what did safety and protection look like? Is it a bear spray, a pepper spray, a gun, a knife? How do you make sure?
It's not. I didn't carry a gun. I did have just like, you know, a dinky pocket knife, and then like a little thing of pepper spray. But I think it's really just being self-aware and being prudent, and you know, you kind of get like a gut feeling. You know, they talk about that gut feeling all the time, and just, you know, go with your gut. And I think it's really, I think the biggest thing is like ticks. Like honestly, that was my biggest fear probably, was just getting Lyme disease. Like,
no kidding.
I didn't want to get that. Bears didn't really worry me too much, because I did see, you know, probably 6 or 7 bears the whole trail. And they always behaved like normal bears and kept walking or running away. So that was good.
Grizzlies out here.
No, just black bears. So just big raccoons.
Granted, it's still a bear, but
right. And there definitely are areas where there are problem bears, especially like in the Smoky Mountains, and you have to really watch out. Like I've heard stories of people having trouble with bears. I just was grateful that I didn't have to deal with any of that. So
no kidding.
But I did actually end up with like the last 2 weeks of my final section hike in 2021. I ended up hiking with a gentleman who was from Massachusetts. So he was retired. He was through hiking the trail. I was finishing in Virginia, and he was keeping going and finishing his hike. But we had similar, you know, hiking speeds and the same kind of mileage that we wanted to do every day. So we actually did end up hiking together for the last 2 weeks of my hike, and that was super nice, just to like not have to worry quite so much, and have another person there that like, oh, if everything goes to, you know, heck in a handbasket, I at least have somebody that can help me out. So that was really just a relief. I think it allowed me to, you know, enjoy my last 2 weeks on trail a lot more. So
is it common to see other people on the trail, or is it a majority of the time you really don't see people for a while?
Yeah, it depends on the season. So in the spring and like summer, here we're gonna see quite a few people hiking the trail. Once I like the section hikes that I did in the fall, it was definitely a lot quieter. And so that was another kind of, I think, mental hurdle that I had to get over. Like, just there's not as many people as there are in the summertime and the springtime, and you know, you are going to be alone more of the time, and you may not have people show up at the shelter, because usually if you are camping at, there's shelters like every 10 to 15 miles maybe.
That's not bad.
So you can stay in those, and there's usually campsites around too. And so usually if you show up at one of those places, there's going to be other people that are going to show up. They're just sort of gathering grounds for everybody. So
my microphone's misbehaving. There we go.
So it generally works out that you do see a lot of people.
That's good.
And the trail has really, I think, become way more popular too. Like movies like what's it called? A Walk in the Woods, which is based on the book by Bill Bryson, and then like you know, Wild by Cheryl Strayed, those sort of, and then they made them into movies, and so then people saw it a lot more, and you know, wanted to do stuff like that. So
did you face any injuries while you were out there, or like
maybe
you got, not to, you know, I'm not a TMI girl, nothing's off limits with me,
sure,
upset stomach, like how do you handle like when you don't feel well when you're on the trail, like what do you do?
I was pretty lucky. I don't know that I ever got you know, cold, flu. I never had the flu. Maybe I had a cold at one point, I can't remember. Because I did sort of the hike where I started in the middle and did like the northern half, and then I was going to flip-flop. They call it a flip-flop hike. Most people start in Georgia and they just go all the way to Maine. And so if you start in Georgia in the spring with like everybody, then I think you end up getting sick a lot more because you're just around more people. Because I didn't start in that big bubble of people, I was able to avoid a lot of the sickness and illness, I think, just from being crowded together. But yeah, I think I never even had blisters. Like I, figured out my shoe situation, got it perfect the first time, I guess. So good. Well, I never had blisters.
Plug the shoe. What shoes did you wear?
I started in boots, like hiking boots, and then I think the next year I switched to trail runners just because they're lighter weight, they dry faster. They're just a little bit easier to break into if you have to get a new pair. So I did that. I always had foot pain. Like that's something I dealt with the whole time pretty much. You just had to kind of learn to live with it. I did have a hip and kind of back issue that flared up. That's what actually ended my through hike attempt. So when I decided I couldn't do the whole thing at once, I was going to have to do it in sections. So that was just something that flared up, and I saw a chiropractor quite a bit, and just never was able to get back on the trail that year and finish it. I just had to give it time to recover. But yeah, it was fine then the next couple years when I did shorter sections, and even when I did my longest section other than the first one was about 500, almost 600 miles, and it was fine for the most part during that too. Wow. So yeah, I don't know what it was.
How much you've walked? Like, probably not in your life, obviously, but of all your things, have you kept a tally?
I mean,
say, like, I've walked this many thousand miles.
Yeah, I mean, the trail itself is close to 2,200 miles, so
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good bit. It's pretty much from Georgia to Maine all along the eastern seaboard, or east coast. I don't know, technically the seaboard, but yeah. So I haven't really kept track of anything else, hiking wise, but that was a pretty big one. And I had never backpacked before when I decided I wanted to do that, so that was a learning curve too.
Oh my gosh, you're just like,
I was carrying way too much weight the first time I went out. Yeah, my pack was probably like 40 pounds, and by the time I finished the trail, it was like probably 35 at tops.
Which probably felt only 5 pounds, but it makes a huge difference.
It does make a huge difference. And I learned, I swapped out some gear for like a lighter backpack and, cutting down on some things, ounces here and there. I didn't start as an ounce counter, but I definitely finished as an ounce counter.
Yeah. It makes a difference.
It does. Yeah.
So what were the nights like?
Yeah. So hiker midnight is like 8:30 in the evening.
Oh god,
so
you're exhausted. Once it gets dark, you're like lights out.
Yeah.
Then you start early,
and usually,
right?
usually you're, even though like I maybe wouldn't go to bed until 8:30, I was usually like horizontal by like 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So
spent.
Yeah. So usually I would just sort of lay in my tent. Read Harry Potter. That was sort of like my comfort food in book form, I like to call it. So that would help me kind of wind down. And sometimes you'd talk with people that were there too, but for the most part, everybody was out at 8:30.
And there's no signal.
Actually, it was pretty good until I got to like the northern parts, so like Maine and New Hampshire. Okay. And then it was, I can't really remember the south, like my section hikes. I think it was decent most of the time. So I had Verizon at the time, and I did have my cell phone. I also had a like satellite GPS device that like had a GPS feature, had an SOS button. My mom and dad, if they wanted to, could go on a map and look where I was.
Me as a mom, I'd be like all day, every day watching your little head move.
I'm pretty sure my dad would just have it up on his work computer, during the day and just watching me make progress. I always tease him because there was one day I was in New Hampshire, and the mountains are pretty serious up there, and there was a mountain called Wildcat Mountain, which I will never forget because the climb was just like straight up, like hand over fist over boulders. And I remember my dad being like, "You were moving slow today," and I was like, "Yeah, I was going straight up a mountain." That's why.
The fact that he critiques you, like, that kills me.
It was funny, I just tease him about it, He didn't mean it as like, oh my gosh, you were going so slow.
No, but that's hilarious. When he's been out there too, so he knows. So what is your pace normally like?
Yeah, I would say like 2.5 miles an hour is probably about a good pace for me. I could go faster, but I would usually end up with more hip pain and
Yeah.
back pain and
Yeah.
foot pain that way. So 2.5 is kind of my like sweet spot, I would say.
Yeah.
But I would generally do probably around 18 to 20 miles a day. It just sort of depends on like if you're trying to get to a shelter, you might have to go a couple more miles. I always wanted to do a marathon day, like 26.2. I never ended up getting to that point. But we did do like my last week on trail, we were doing like back to back 20, 25s, 22s, just because I was like so ready to like finish and just, be done with the thing. I couldn't slow down at that point.
Yeah.
But
were there ever any points where you were like, you had to convince yourself to stick in it and keep going and like wanted to walk away from it, or did you always?
Yeah, there were definitely times. I think pretty early on, honestly, I was dealing with a lot of pain in my just like the arches of my feet, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'm not like cut out for this. Everybody has foot pain, I would say, generally. But you just sort of have to figure out if it's something that you want to live with or not. And I mean, I would take ibuprofen, but it only helped some of the time and didn't take away all of the pain. So yeah, I would say in the first couple weeks is really when I was sort of like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And I ended up, obviously sticking it out. The funny thing is my worst day on trail, I don't think I really even thought about quitting. It was the day in Vermont, and the trail was like a pond. It was pouring down rain. It was, pretty chilly as far as like temperatures go, and hypothermia, I would say, was probably a real concern that day. Oof. And, but yeah, I didn't really think about quitting seriously that day. So, it's interesting. I think the hardest part, and I learned this as I was like preparing for the trail, is the mental challenge of it.
It absolutely
because
is.
you're getting up every day, you're doing the same thing, you're putting in the miles, and you're like, why? Sometimes you're just like, why am I doing this?
What is wrong with me?
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's definitely a huge mental challenge for sure.
But it's got like, it has to feel so amazing to say. I did that.
It's funny.
I would tell everyone I met. Yeah. You know what I did? Everybody would know.
I can talk about it quite a bit, but yeah, it's funny because you do forget sometimes on a daily basis, like, oh my gosh, I did hike like 2,200 miles,
right,
by myself mostly. So yeah, whenever I think I can't do something, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I can.
Yes,
I just gotta get on that. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Were there any like awful weather? I'm sure you ran into rain and swinging temperatures. Like, I think about how I feel when I'm soaking wet. Like. That's when I would want to give up. Yeah. I'd be like, enough. Everything is chafed. I'm soaked down to my undies, basically. Socks, wet, everything.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely rough when you've had, like, a couple days of rain. And especially in the Appalachian woods, it's just so humid. Like, nothing dries. Like, you hang your stuff up and it's just dry. It's just still the same amount of wet the next day. And, it's cold in the morning, maybe. So then you're putting on, like, wet, cold clothes. And that's honestly probably my least favorite part of the whole experience.
It's like when you put on something out of the dryer that's still wet. Yeah, and you're like,
it's just such an icky feeling. So that was probably like the hardest part of that. Somebody described it well though, like, oh god, I guess I don't need my coffee now because I just got woken up by my cold clothes. So yeah, that was tough. I think one of the other hard things is just like the shelters are just like mice magnets, and so you're going to sleep at night, you can just hear the little guys running around, and sometimes they get super close.
I would lose it.
I should have slept in my tent more, but also just like having to clean up a wet tent in the morning is also unpleasant. So if it was raining, I was going to stay in a shelter, and the mice are just like, it's mice Olympics in there.
At least they're not like, I mean, I'm sure they carry disease, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I think
they're not going to mess. They're not going to like eat your face off.
Right. They're not going to eat you. They might eat your stuff. So that was hard. Like, I think the third night out, I had a mouse chew a hole in the bottom of my sleeping bag. So that was fun. I was like, man, you would pick like the most expensive piece of gear that I have to chew holes in. Of course.
So now with all the history of the Appalachian being, deep into, I mean, a lot of people go disappearing. There's all kinds of, urban legends and all that.
Yeah, sure.
Did you look into any of that before? Did you
Not really.
get any weird... I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Because then it would be in your head the whole time. Did you ever have any eerie feelings or anything that made you kind of like, what the heck was that? Or anything strange?
Not really, I don't think. I think the biggest thing I found out when I was like doing my initial research was that they're, we usually think of mountain lions as living like out west and not really around here. And I think I remember reading something that they were seen in like the Smokies or, somewhere in the Appalachians. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this now.
I would be afraid of that.
Right. Because they're stealthy. And I've worked a little bit with big cats. And so you just know that they, they're instinct driven too. So, so that was a little bit scary.
They will
I was
literally
like,
eat you.
they might. So that was a little bit nerve wracking. And I was like, man, maybe I don't want to do this. And, eventually you sort of just realize that like, well, if that's the way I'm meant to go, then I guess that's the way I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So.
Honestly, that's kind of a theory I've adapted for myself over the years, probably in the last 5, is like, if it is, it is. Like, I can't stop it. Like you said, you have to live your life, and not that you do something reckless, but you can't live in fear.
Right.
You can't live in fear.
Yeah. And I think for me, the whole journey was like a big trust exercise with God, because like I said, I am spiritual, and so, he had my back the whole time. And yeah,
absolutely. And when you were done with it, what did that look like? Were you like, I ain't doing anything for about 3 months. I'm not going to leave my bed. Like, what did coming off of something like that look like?
Yeah, I think it's hard. A lot of people, it's hard for them, I think, to adjust back to like normal life after they've lived like that for a good period of time. I mean, mine was a little bit different, right? Because I did 3 months the first time, but then I had to do like section hikes the next couple of years. So I was only out for maybe 9 days or maybe a month, was the longest one after that. So, but yeah, it was definitely hard. I think one thing is you can't just like eat whatever you want anymore. No. Like, you're not walking 20 miles a day, so you have to watch that for sure.
That's true.
I think it is a little bit it's definitely a mental adjustment, and you're used to spending time outside, which is like super good for us. We don't usually do it enough, and just encountering people in a really, I think, real deep way, like very quickly. Like you meet people and you can have a conversation with them like you've known them for a very long time. And I think everybody's just super real and authentic out there. And
I think that's that unspoken that you all know, like everyone is there for a different reason. And it's so personal. So you kind of have that, like, you're out there for you, I'm out there for me, that camaraderie instantly that you meet with people in the trail. Like you said, it's a community. In the real world, right, you go to work and sometimes you don't have that. So
and it's really cool to see that and experience that community. And I think everybody just sort of takes care of each other, because you realize that, like, oh well, I helped this person who maybe sprained their ankle today, but I could do that tomorrow and need help, right? So really everybody's just very aware of that, which is really cool.
Now, did you go right back to work or time off, or?
I did. I guess it depends. Yeah. So when I finished the first long section, I did go right back to work. When I finished the whole trail, so that was in June of 2021, I sort of was in a period. I finished at the bird sanctuary, and so I was sort of in limbo trying to figure out a job. So I had some time off then until I started working at the library. I can't really remember what that period was like, if I was like bored out of my mind, or if I was like happy to not have anywhere to go, or the stress of job searching, I'm sure, was probably factored in there too. But just resting and letting my body recover a little bit too. And it was, I knew, it's interesting to kind of go from that. So I talked about that sort of being the end of my time at the bird sanctuary, like the beginning of the end when I started hiking the trail. And so when I finished the trail, I started thinking about grad school. And I think if I hadn't left the bird sanctuary, I probably wouldn't have started thinking about grad school. I probably wouldn't have been in the master's program that I'm in right now. And so, you don't know what's happening in the moment, but if you look back, you can kind of see like how the pieces came together. And I think the trail changed me too, in that I spent a lot of time in national forests, state forests, all these wild lands that are protected, and it made me realize how precious those are, and like the wildlife that lives in them, and made me want to shift my career path to more conservation based, protecting wildlife in the wild and those wild places. And so that then set me on the course to grad school.
You probably saw the most incredible views, beautiful sunsets. I hope you have thousands of pictures.
I do. Yeah, I have quite a few. They don't do it
No,
justice
they never
though.
do. They never do.
And it's funny, I've tried, I think I missed the first year after I finished, but I've tried to make it a goal to get back on the trail like every year at least once, just to kind of get that grounding and that memory, and just to sort of remember and reflect on that whole experience still. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off this year because I have a wedding next week, and then I have like school and graduation and stuff. But maybe like in the winter, you do a winter hike.
Yeah. Was there a certain area or state or anything that was your absolute favorite? You look back and you're like, I love it the best.
Yeah, I usually give people like my top 3.
Yes.
So definitely Mount Katahdin in Maine, which is the end point in Maine.
Okay.
And that's just a really cool spot. I don't know, you talked about like, did you ever get like a really cool feeling or something like that? And I would say that was a really neat spot up there. Just it's called the greatest mountain. Like I think it's Abenaki. That's what Katahdin means in their language, is the greatest mountain. Okay. And so that was a really cool spot. What about
it makes it so cool? This views, overall feel like town?
Yeah, I think it's also like sort of an isolated mountain, or isolated range maybe, and it's not very big. So it's kind of the only thing that sticks out in that area.
Yeah.
So it is sort of like, the tallest mountain in that area, which is pretty cool. And I think just being in sort of that's where most people finish their hike. And even though I wasn't finishing my hike there, it was still pretty monumental that I just like finished 1,000 miles on my first like backpacking trip really ever by myself.
That's a huge accomplishment.
That was a cool feeling to be up there and just kind of be in that space of like, oh, so many people, this is so meaningful for a lot of people.
The amount of people that have done that too, like you're now part of that. It's a big group, but it's still very small.
I think they say like 1 in 4 people finish a through hike, and that's just a through hike. I would love to see the stats on like, if you have to end the trail like I did early on your through hike, like how many people then go back and finish after that, because it's probably less, but I don't know that for sure. So yeah, that was really cool. So Katahdin, and then Mount Moosilauke, which is in New Hampshire. And that was my first, starting in West Virginia where I started, that was my first like 360-degree view, like mountain up there. And you can see like the White Mountains and the Green Mountains. And it was just a really cool feeling. I had, I think that was, I just realized that like, oh my gosh, like I'm here in this moment. This is here for me. And this is just really cool.
Yeah, it's going to feel just overwhelming.
Yeah.
I get very emotional in nature. Like I bawl like a baby. I was bawling almost the whole time we were in Alaska.
Yeah.
Because I just get so overwhelmed by the purity and when you think of what's actually out there. So I can only imagine how overwhelming those feelings have to be to see and to be out there alone with your own thoughts and your accomplishments. Like it's got to be just an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it is definitely a neat feeling. And just to be in those places and to be able to be in those places, like have the ability to just, leave my stuff for like a couple of weeks and go out and just kind of be in that elemental state again, I guess.
No kidding.
And then the third one would probably be the Roan Highlands in Tennessee. Okay. Sort of like Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, where that all kind of comes together right there. That's a really cool spot where you get up onto these bald mountains and you can just like see the trail stretching out ahead of you, and it's just a really pretty area there too. So those would be my top 3.
On the flip side, what are some of your worst spots that you're like, never again?
Worst favorite? Gosh. I don't know. I remember thinking Pennsylvania was one of them on the time at the time, because it was just super rocky. I mean, the last like 100 miles of Pennsylvania probably at least are just like these ankle busting rocks just jutting out of the trail. But when I don't know, I've tried to train myself to like look back and remember like the good things about Pennsylvania, not just the rocks. It works most of the time.
But
yeah, I think The Grayson Highlands in Virginia was kind of a tough day. It's a really cool area, and there's like wild ponies there and stuff. Wow. So we did get to see those, but it was just a long day. I think we'd done like a really long day the day before that, and this is when I was hiking with Flash, which everybody also gets a trail name on the trail. So mine was Vulture, his was Flash. Love that. Everybody goes by those names. So Flash and I had done like a 20. I think it was like probably like a 20-mile day, but it was like 8,000 feet of elevation gain the day before that. Holy and so cow. We were like, oh, this is great. We feel great, at the end of that day. And then the next day we were both like ready to die. Dead. But so that was kind of a rough day. But
you have got some stamina, I have to say.
Yeah, it's a lot of stamina, but just like I think mental fortitude I think too.
Because definitely our brain will give up before our body will.
Yeah.
So you got to keep it in check. And any like walking sticks or any mobility aids or like anything like that, or
just trekking poles? Okay. Yeah, which help a lot on like the inclines and the declines. I like going uphill more, honestly, than going downhill.
I believe that.
Uphill is harder, but downhill hurts more. Yeah. So yeah. I don't think there was ever really a day. Usually I would pick a target and that's what I would stick to. And there were very few days that I fell short of that target. Sometimes I would go beyond it. But it was funny that day that I was talking about, Flash and I, we'd stopped at a shelter like 5 miles before our target. Mm-hmm. Just for a break, a snack and a break. And we both were thinking that like, oh man, we should just stay here and not do like the last 5 miles. But neither one of us like said it out loud to the other. So then when the one got up, the other one got up, we just kept going. Yeah. Then of course, when we got to the end, I was like, man, I was thinking about asking you if you wanted to stop. And he's like, I was thinking of asking you if you wanted to stop. But we didn't say anything, so we kept going. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of like negative memories, I think, of different trail portions. Probably if I thought Stratton Mountain that was the really bad day in Vermont that I think I mentioned earlier, with just bad weather and rain all day and terrible trail conditions. So I don't have a huge fondness for Stratton Mountain, but I made up with Mount Washington. I think I had a beef with Mount Washington for a while in the Whites, because that section is just tough. It's like really tough trail and a lot of elevation, and the weather's pretty unpredictable. So when we were up there, it was really bad weather. I had sort of started hiking with somebody in that section just like for a couple days, and the weather was terrible the day we went up to Mount Washington, and we had to kind of bail and then come back up the next day and actually go across, because there's like 13 miles of exposed ridgeline with no trees, and so if the weather's terrible, you can't go across it. So
now, like, I'm obviously a very, very novice hiker, and I don't do a whole lot because I've got physical limitations. Is Appalachian Trail like any other trail where each tree is marked every so often, or is it like...
Yeah, it's pretty good. They are pretty good about marking it.
So you're not like out trying to figure out where you're going.
Right, yeah. Usually not. It's pretty obvious. There are definitely some spots where it's a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to stand at one blaze and see like the next blaze on a tree, and that's true for the most part, but not always.
Is that what those are called?
Yeah, blazes, yeah.
So look at me learning more stuff.
But I had like an app on my phone that was a really good map of the trail, and it shows you places you can stay, places you can get water, all that kind of stuff. So that was super helpful. And people can even like leave comments like, oh, this water source was dry, like don't hike 5 miles, 0.5 to go down to get it. So that was super helpful, just to like that chain of communication.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Any regrets of the trip and the trip?
I think it would have been nice to have a tramily. That was what they call it. So if you get on the trail and you sort of fall in with a group of hikers and you're sort of all putting in the same miles and staying at the same places, you get pretty close and get some really good relationships. So I didn't really have that because I was usually hiking not in the busiest season, and I didn't start with the bubble in Georgia and then, hike with the same people. So that would have been nice just to, sort of have that community. And Flash and I still keep in touch, and we still hike together, which is nice.
That's cool.
And I still have friends that I kind of keep in touch with that I met on the trail. But yeah, it would have been sort of nice just to have that experience too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I don't want to not talk about the trail, but you've also gone a lot of other really places. So you do a lot of, and it's all nature centered. So what have you been up to besides the Appalachian Trail?
Sure. So I talked about the trail kind of leading me to grad school.
Yes.
So I'm almost done with my master's in biology through Miami University. And they have this really cool program called Project Dragonfly. And so the courses are online. It's sort of designed for working adults.
Okay.
And you can finish it in 2.5 years, or you can finish it in 5 years, kind of however long you need to take. Yeah, which is nice. So the courses are online, but then during the summer, you get to go on these field courses. And their whole goal is sort of, community and voice and conservation and community-based conservation. So what are local communities doing to help the environment and taking us to different places in the world so that we can experience different communities doing that
and learning from ecosystems and helping them and bringing things back and
seeing different perspectives and exposed to new ideas. So I started that in 2023. My first trip was to Belize, so I spent 10 days in Belize. We spent a lot of time at the zoo.
I'm really bad at geography. So tell me and my viewers where Belize is.
Yes, so it's in Central America. So if you think about like Mexico comes down, right? And it kind of comes up here and then it goes down, and Belize is kind of like right here.
Okay.
It's a small country. It's bordered by, I think, Guatemala for the most part.
So it's hot and humid.
Yeah, hot and humid. Like, not quite rainforest, but tropical. So hot and humid, very hot and humid. There was one day, I don't think I ever stopped sweating, even when I was sleeping at night. And I was like, is something wrong with me? Like, what is going on? It was funny, though, because I feel like all of the local people were also sweating as much as we were. So I was like, okay, this is normal.
They really do get used to the heat.
Yeah, they do.
Anytime we've gone tropical, I'm like, how do they tolerate this? And you just get used to it. And I'm like,
oof. I think you do. So Belize, spent a lot of time at the zoo. And their tropical education center where you can actually go and stay there, and they'll take you around to different places and show you the wildlife. So got to see a lot of wildlife, got to see the landscape, spent time on an island about, the size of a football field and spent the night there.
So you're with other people in a program?
Yeah. So there's usually like 15 to 20 different students on the trip, and then 2 instructors. And so the instructors are, leading you through everything. The nice thing about traveling in this program is once you get there, everything's planned. You know where you're staying. You don't have to worry about, food or bad water or any of that kind of stuff. So once you get there, it's pretty easy to just, go with the flow and let somebody else plan it for you, which is nice. It's been a great way to like sort of get into international travel and kind of gain a little bit of confidence there.
Absolutely.
Belize was really cool. It was a really great introduction to the program and like what to expect and what's expected of me. We, went out on a boat, looked for manatees, learned all about manatee conservation.
Like out in the wild. I love when you're going to not just like zoos and stuff are great, but like their natural habitat. There's something else about that.
There really is, and I've thought a lot about that because of this program and like getting to see that really cool stuff in the wild. There's you just can't replace it, and zoos are great. I mean, they do a lot of conservation. A lot of people can't travel internationally, maybe, so at least they get to see the animal and learn a little bit about them, hopefully care about them. But you just can't replace seeing stuff in the wild.
No.
So we did that, did some hiking, a lot of hiking in different reserves and things. The cool thing about the trips, too, is you learn about the native culture. So we got to learn about the different cultural tools and, practices and things like that. So you're not so much a tourist as you're just like a student. And I love just being able to be a student just learning again. And so that was a really cool first trip. We do some school while we're there, some scientific, projects and work, and you have to lead a group discussion and, do some journaling and that type of stuff that you're kind of graded
on.
You
have like your evenings free or like
depends on, I think, the trip. My first trip was like jam packed. I think just because it was like sort of orientation, so they're introducing you. They have to explain a lot more about the program to you. The next 2 trips I went on, I think we had more free time in the evenings for sure.
Now, what do they speak in Belize?
English, actually, So English is the official language. They only became independent, I think, in like 1980 from Great Britain.
Okay.
So English is still the
that
official
made it really
language.
Easy then.
Yeah. So we didn't have a language barrier. A lot of them, speak their native language too, though, like maybe Creole or some of them I think speak I think that some of them spoke Spanish too.
Okay.
But everybody could speak English, which was helpful as well.
What did you eat? Did they have different cuisine down there?
Yeah, it was pretty good. We did get a lot of like the traditional foods, like fresh breads and lots of fruit, lots of juice, like fresh, just tropical juices and things. A lot of like stewed chicken, beans, rice.
Heavy seafood or no?
I don't think we had a lot of seafood on that trip actually. We had some we did have some in Guyana when I was there, but it was more like river fish, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Although it might have been from the coast too. Because they are actually border the coast of the Atlantic, so. Okay. But yeah, not a whole lot of seafood that I remember. But yeah, it was good food. I mean, actually it's funny. When I got home, I was like kind of sick for a couple days, like maybe even a week or two after that. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it's because their food is just, fresh and clean and fresh food. Not super processed. And yeah, I was like, it. Oh man, I lost my American food tolerance.
Yeah. Well, poison basically.
Yeah, right.
I try not to go far down those rabbit holes.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But no, you were eating fresh food, fresh chicken, fresh fruit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was my first trip. And then the next year, you're sort of supposed to develop like a focus. So they call it your master plan. Like, what do you want to focus on during your time in the program? And I'm really into like predatory animals. So coyotes, mountain lions, those large kind of carnivore species that are really iconic, but also usually associated with conflict. And a lot of people might not like them because they do cause those conflicts. And so I really wanted to work on promoting like understanding those animals and what they bring to ecosystems and how can we coexist with them. And so the trip to Namibia in Africa, so Namibia is right above South Africa, so down in the very southern part of the continent. It's a semi-arid region, so almost a desert region in Namibia. So I went to Namibia on my second trip because the focus was really on like coexisting with predators. So we spent a lot of time at the Cheetah Conservation Fund. Wow. Their headquarters there in Namibia, learning all about the stuff that they're doing. They have like a model farm there where they help farmers, know how to take good care of their livestock so it's not susceptible to predators. They have a really cool livestock guarding dog program where they distribute these dogs to farms in the country, and the dogs protect the livestock from cheetahs and leopards and other predators. They do a lot of education stuff too, so we spent a lot of time there learning all about what they did.
And you're like up and close with cheetahs.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Do they really have? I've seen them online. The little meow. They almost sound
yeah, they do.
You hear it, and you're like, wait a minute, you're like 8,000 pounds.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They take care of. They have several cheetahs that just live there that are captive and can't be released back into the wild. But they do some rehabilitation as well, where they rescue cheetahs and try to release them. And actually, they have a newer facility in Somaliland, which I think isn't really, depending on who you ask, is maybe not even like an official country. Okay. But they do a lot of rescue from the wildlife trafficking trade there. And so they have like 100 some cheetahs that they've rescued in Somaliland. Awesome. And so really cool work that they're doing. So we did that. We spent a lot of time there just learning about all that. And we went to Etosha National Park, which is in northern Namibia. So you can't hike in Etosha National Park because there's too many things that might eat you.
Oh my gosh.
So we spent most of the time on the bus. Yeah. A coach bus, looking for wildlife, doing wildlife viewing from the bus. And then we spent the night at one of their like established fenced in camps. Although we didn't sleep, we actually pulled an all-nighter at a water hole instead. And got to just like, oh my gosh, it was so incredible. So it's kind of set up. You're on like a deck almost, and then you can see the water hole like down here, and they have it lit at night, with some, I think it's wildlife friendly lighting, but I can't really remember. So you can just stay there all night and just see what shows up in the early hours of the morning. And so we saw rhinos, we saw hyena.
In the wild.
I know. Wow. I was like, we put up tents, and I was like, you know what? I am not gonna probably sleep in this tent anyway. I'm gonna be so worried that I'm missing something that I'm also not gonna sleep.
I would take my eyes open.
Yeah, so I might as well just spend the night at the water hole. Yeah. And so we saw lots of cool stuff there. A couple owls. African wildcat, hyena, zebras.
Those are insane. Hyenas
yeah,
are
I was so excited to see the hyena. I'm not gonna lie.
The noise they make literally makes me panic.
No, it was so cool. Yeah. It was so cool because you could hear them talking to each other. Like you can't see them; they're way out in the distance, but you could hear them. Yeah,
weird.
And then I think we heard a lion also bellow, like making that really low bellow that they do, like way off in the distance. So we saw, and then at 2:30 in the morning, we saw 9 elephants come in to drink.
God.
Then 9 more came in, and then 9 more came in, and there were like cry. 30 elephants. We were crying. Some of us were crying. And then one of them was like a little baby, and they were just, 30 elephants chilling at this water hole at 2:30 in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this can't be real. No. I wanted to go to Africa. When I was growing up, there was a period of my life, I don't know how old I was. I was little, but we watched Lion King every day.
You're like, I'm gonna be there.
And I'm pretty sure that's where my desire to go to Africa came from, and I've always wanted to go to Africa.
Oh,
and
that's so amazing.
So yeah, because of grad school, it happened probably way sooner than it would have normally.
That is so amazing.
We saw, lions the next day when we were driving through Etosha, and you just realize that it's hard to see these guys in the wild, especially the cats. If we had altered our itinerary by minutes, we would have missed both of the lions that we saw, and we only saw them for a split second or maybe a couple minutes, but it's just so cool. I didn't see a leopard, so I have to go back. But
darn.
There's just so much to Africa's such a big country. There's
vast.
So many other places that I want to go to, and it was just an other worldly experience.
God. I cannot even imagine, because like you said, the pictures, and even if you're watching the crispest 4K on National Geographic, nothing beats being there in person. And I'm really big on energy, and when I'm around animals, you feel that. And I can't imagine being around, especially elephants. I've always loved elephants and found them so fast. I would literally I hope your brain never blocks those memories out. I hope you never forget that. I hope it just sticks with you forever.
Yeah, me too. It was just so cool. I remember Jane Goodall just passed away a couple of days ago. But I remember her sharing an experience, watching her share this experience of she was in, somewhere in the wilds of Africa, I'm sure, and ran into literally was probably feet away from a leopard, and she wasn't scared. She was I just knew I was meant to be in that moment, and I was that is so cool.
I know.
I just want to be in all of those moments.
Yes. See, I don't physically, I'm for me, I'm I could never. For me, that's never. I don't know. You never know what the future holds, but in my head, I'm I would never experience something like that just because of my life and how I do things. But that's so incredible to be able to say you've gone to Africa and seen these animals in the wild.
Yeah, I'm very, very blessed for sure.
That's amazing.
Just to have that experience. And I know, a lot of people would give a lot of things to go to Africa, and I'm just super grateful that this grad school program, gave me that experience, and God gave me that experience. And it was incredible. Like I said, I just want to go back. Go to South Africa and Botswana and Tanzania, and
what's on,
all the places.
You want all those.
Yeah,
those
all
are
the places.
Your hit list over there. Okay.
So that was Africa. I mean, the travel to get over there was rough. It was a 15-hour flight, and I learned that next time I go on a 15-hour flight, don't pick a window seat.
No window.
Pick an aisle seat.
Oh yeah.
Then you can get up to go to the bathroom without waking up your seatmates every a couple hours. But it was for sure worth it.
Oh yeah.
So worth it. So
yeah. Is that the last trip you've taken then?
So this past summer was the last one in the program, and you can go on it as an alumni. So I might do a couple more in the future. We'll see. So I went to South America this time, to Guyana, which is a small country on the sort of northeastern coast of South America.
Okay.
So it borders the Atlantic. Not really a safe place to go.
Okay.
If you go to the government website, which I made the mistake of doing, it was hey, maybe don't travel here. It says don't travel there.
Gotcha.
It's not a very safe city, Georgetown, so that's the major city there.
Yeah.
There is some weird, I think, cult thing that happened in Georgetown, which I remember my dad mentioning when I said I was going to Guyana. It was many years ago, but you can probably Google it. So yeah, but my instructor he's been going for like 14 years. So, you know, he knows the hotels to stay at, the taxi drivers to trust, and all of that. But so this was my first time being in the rainforest, which was super cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. To get to the rainforest from Georgetown, though, you have to we caravanned in vans. The road is only paved for like the first 3 hours outside of the city, and then you hit a dirt road, basically one main road from there to Brazil. And it is rainy season, and so it's just pothole city. There's just potholes everywhere, and lakes in the middle of the road, and they're like doing construction.
What kind of van? Like a charter bus, or
like a kind of like a 12 passenger van, probably.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think it was a Toyota.
Did it have AC?
It did have AC and Wi-Fi.
Oh wow!
So that was a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So that was quite a trip. It was 12 hours one way.
Girl,
to get from Georgetown to like our first stopping point, and then we stayed there for like a couple days, and then we moved on a little further south. And so then on the way back, it was like, 15 hours in a van.
Knew you had to come back.
Yeah. So they used to fly in and fly out, but it's become like super expensive. So this was their first year driving both ways, and I'm really curious to know if they will do it again, because it was rough. It was a little rough. God. It was exciting on the way in because you're like, seeing the country change and you're excited. But then on the way back, you're like, oh man, I was lying in bed that night and I could still like feel myself just bumping up and down.
Just this, or I think of the movie Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, when he's like in the thing, and I'm like, that's probably what it was. Bouncing around.
That was rough. But other than that, the experience was really cool. The focus for that trip was a lot of like indigenous wisdom and sort of how they apply that to conservation.
I love that.
So that was super cool to just be with the local people and see all that they're doing.
What was the languages there?
Yeah, so they mostly spoke English again.
Good.
They do have their own, their own native languages that they also speak. And they're very cool about, holding on to that culture and making sure that the youth are also being exposed to that culture and like learning the language and learning traditional dances and practices and things like that. So like our last night there, they typically do some kind of like cultural presentation, and so they did a bunch of traditional dances for us and showed us a lot about like the different things that they make, so the weaving and things that they do, the jewelry they make, how they I can't remember like basket weaving and that kind of stuff. So we learned a lot about the farming that they do and how they process cassava, which is like a food staple down there. It's sort of like a potato, but they use it for a lot of different things. It's actually poisonous, and so in order to make it not poisonous, you have to like squeeze all of the like juice out of it. Oh my gosh! And then it's fine. I was like, this seems sketchy, but okay. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. So actually, it's cool though. I think I remember seeing a map of like a study that somebody did, and Guyana is the only country in the world that could like still feed itself if there were no exports coming in. Wow. So I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Learned that right after I got back from being there. But yeah, we learned a lot about how they use the land, how they farm, how they hunt and fish. These people have been doing this for generations, and because they're so tied to the land and the wildlife, they are very good at protecting it and knowing what needs to be done to protect it, and they're very
can learn a lot from those cultures.
We can. So that was super cool, just being in the rainforest and experiencing that biodiversity too, and then also the culture. And it was a little bit different of a trip for me, I think. It felt a lot different than the other ones, and I still don't really know why that was, but it was a cool trip. I think Namibia was like, we had such a good group of people on my trip to Namibia, that it was really just like 1 in a million, I think. And so then I was like, my bar was really high. But it was a good experience, and definitely one, because of the, like, we have to write a paper that's related to stuff that you're seeing in Guyana, but also applies at home. And so through a lot of the research that I was doing for papers and coursework and that type of stuff, I definitely was able to go deeper in a lot of topics that I found interesting, and develop sort of a lot of critical thinking skills, I think. And
yeah,
I wish we had the community-based conservation that they have there, because everybody is in the community is just so involved in it. And here we have such an overhead of, you know, Department of Natural Resources and all of that, and so it's not really community based, and because of that, it's a very different feel.
Completely different.
I
think we as a country could learn a lot from all these other countries,
definitely,
and should probably not try to reinvent the wheel, because we do it awful, honestly, in a lot of areas. So where's, like, you mentioned, you know, you want to go back to Afro. Where's, like, next for you? What does that look like the next couple years for you? What are you working towards?
I don't know. People have asked me that a lot, you know, once they find out I'm working on a master's, and I always say, like, I don't really know where I'm going, but I know I'm on the right track. And so I know what my dream job would be. I don't know that it exists.
Okay,
but
so what is that?
My dream job would be to, you know, be out west or somewhere where there's mountain lions and lots of predators. And, you know, sometimes a mountain lion might get hit by a car, and she has 2 cubs that are now struggling in the wild. So my dream job would be to, maybe it's just me, maybe it's me and a working conservation dog or something, but we're hiking through the woods, we're finding all the little orphans, and we're taking them, you know, out of the woods with us and finding them help and getting them where they need to go so that they can survive or maybe be rehabilitated. So that's like my dream job, but I don't think that job exists.
Make it happen. So if anybody it's Mary.
I'll make it happen. I don't know. I think in the stuff I saw in Namibia with all the working dogs and the livestock guarding dogs, and we learned about the scat dogs that they have. So they take dogs out, and the dogs are sniffing out like cheetah scat or leopard scat, and then they're, you know, researchers are collecting that, using that for research. So that, I think that would be a cool career to maybe pursue, is doing, you know, working with the dog and conservation. Because
dogs are amazing.
They're the real superheroes.
They really are. We do not deserve dogs.
No,
as a human. No, we don't.
They're really cool, and all that they can do in conservation is just incredible. Maybe something like that. I like what I'm doing now, but I'm also sort of ready, I think, to get out of Ashland and maybe go a little further abroad. Maybe be close to the trail. I've always kind of wanted to be close to the trail. I don't really know. I need the perfect job to just kind of like fall into my lap.
Well, if anything, the world is your oyster, girl, because, like, there's nothing you can't do. Like, I think you've proved that time and time again.
I just want to be involved in conservation. I mean, that's, like, super important to me. And I think, you know, through all of these experiences, I've really gained I've grown a lot, you know, I've learned a lot. I've developed more confidence in myself and in my voice and like using my voice for wildlife, for wild places. And so, whatever I end up doing, I know I'll be doing something related to that. So
I love that. I love all those stories. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
You're welcome. Yeah. I love talking about it. So it's nice to have an opportunity to talk about it. It helps me reflect on it too.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. What would you tell your younger self? Knowing all you know, what would you tell the little Mary?
Oh, man. I think just hang on. Like, it's gonna be an adventure, but it's gonna be hard. But don't be afraid to, like, push yourself out of your comfort zone. I think that's when we grow the most, is when we're out of that comfort zone that we like to stay in. So the trail and, like, all these international experiences, like, not something I probably would have pictured myself doing when I was maybe 10 years old, but no
kidding.
I've grown a lot through it, just because of, you know, having to push myself.
So obviously nature is very big. What do you do just to, like, chill out? Like, if you had a Saturday yourself, nothing going on, what do you do to just, like, relax?
I don't know, hiking, birding, probably. Just taking my dogs somewhere to the park, or you know, for a walk, doing fun stuff with them. They, you know, I like to try to enrich their lives, and they enrich mine quite a bit. So or just reading, you know, hanging out outside somewhere on the porch, on the deck, reading a book. I haven't had nearly enough time to read lately with all my stuff going on, just chill stuff, or hanging out with family. You know, my family's kind of spread out right now, but it's always good to spend time with them and travel and see them.
Exactly. So what's one thing you would want people to kind of take away after learning all about about you, what would be something you'd like to share with the world?
Oh man, it's a lot of pressure. I think just like getting outside and kind of rediscovering that connection to nature and to wildlife. If you've kind of lost that, I think we forget that we're connected to nature, and we're part of nature. And if nature goes, so do we. So
we have to coexist.
Right. I think that's something that's super important, and that's something that I'm sort of trying to help people realize in my job and in my school. And it's something that's really important to me, and something that I've seen people do in these different travels and things that they've gone on, is like, yeah, you can coexist with jaguars or with cheetahs or these large animals that often we get into trouble with. And
those predators.
And just having that empathy too for them and for wildlife. Like, these are living beings that are living in our world, and we can,
and as much as we can say, like, maybe we're living in theirs. I've tried, the more you become involved in nature, and birding has opened up my eyes a lot, you do get that empathy. Everyone is just a little soul on their journey, and they deserve the respect and regard as everyone else. And I think when you can look at it that way, it's actually quite beautiful. It is. And I think that's something that being very like spiritual too is super important to me, is just that role of like taking care of what's here and what we've been given. And exactly,
so that's empathy and understanding and coexistence for sure.
I love that. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
This has been an absolute blast. I've loved learning all that I have, and I don't know if you have your pictures online somewhere.
Oh yeah, on Facebook, or I can send you some. Too.
I mean, you probably have thousands and thousands. I don't know how you even filter through and like get what you love. But,
I did take a good camera to Namibia, so because I was like, oh, I'm going to Africa, I can't not take my good camera. No. It's not a great camera, but it's better than a smartphone.
Sure.
But, I probably don't have. I wish I had more pictures of the wildlife, but then I also am like, well, I have them up here.
Yeah, too, and in your heart too, which is even more important. Awesome. Well, thanks again. This was a blast. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you've enjoyed today, and we hopefully will see you back here soon in a couple weeks. Got a couple things planned coming up, but stay tuned for more updates, and thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye.